this woman, I was talking to her on the phone and she was telling me about the misery in her life. And I said, well, the first place we're going to start is I need to understand what your purpose is here. I need to understand what's getting you up in the morning. When she was talking to me, she sounded like this during our first call. And I could feel, like literally feel her chin in her chest. After that exercise we did, when she had her words for what her purpose was, she was speaking to you like I speak to you now, with power and passion in her voice. It made all the difference. They say, oh, I was cut off in traffic, so of course I was mad. Wait a second. You said of course. You said of course as though there was no other way to be. That sounds like that's a contract. That's something that they've made. They've said, I agree to be angry when someone cuts me off in traffic because I believe that people should pay more attention. People should be more considerate of other people, etc.
What up, Masters? Welcome to another episode of Path to Mastery, episode number 101, featuring Dr. Bridget Cooper. And listen, this was an awesome interview. She talked to us about thinking bigger, guys. We got to stop thinking so small. And here's the thing. We can improve our confidence simply by improving our thoughts. This is such a great conversation because when she came in and did a leadership event for us, I actually challenged her. I said, I'm not really sure about that whole thing with changing your thoughts. And she shared some things with me that just blew my mind. And she's going to do the same thing for you guys. Listen, this is about learning to take the power away from your inner critic. It's about self-awareness and it's about confidence. This is an amazing episode. And I'll tell you what, if you really focus on this, you're going to get so much out of it. It may just be the one episode that really changes your life. So that said, I absolutely had such a fantastic time with her, and I really want you to enjoy it. Another opportunity for you is School for Realtors, my friends. This is my expired FSBO prospecting training program. Check it out. That said, we got Gary V coming up in a couple weeks, so keep your ears or your eyes and your ears on the podcast because the full interview with Gary's coming up and we've got so much in the pipeline. I'm super excited to get things started for you guys. Again, enjoy Bridget Cooper and listen, stop living a small life when you can live a massive life. Pay attention, you rock, enjoy. What's up, Masters? Welcome to another episode of Path to Mastery. And today we have a special treat for you guys. We're with Dr. Bridget Cooper. Hey, what's up, Bridget?
Hey, David. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
You sent me this awesome bio, and I am really awesome at butchering bios. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read part of it, and then I'll have you fill in some of the gaps. So,
oh my God, everyone on this recording, they're going to be going to sleep. That's what is going to happen.
Well, you know what? I'm going to keep it nice and short and sweet. So, Dr. Bridget Cooper with degrees and careers in human resource management, systems theory, counseling, and educational leadership. Bridget has the experience, insight, techniques, and most importantly, the courage to take you from crisis mode and drama, which I'm sure a lot of our listeners know plenty about, to responding with intention and calm, which is what we're all looking for, right? And listen to this, guys. Do you want to stop living a smaller than you're capable of life? Then you need to listen to Dr. Bridget Cooper. So, Bridget, how was that?
Oh, that was pretty good. When I do a lot of keynotes and workshops and they read off my actual bio, and we all have a bio, right? It talks about, our favorite snack in kindergarten and, where we grew up, how we identify ourselves and every degree.
Oh, I know.
By the end of it, I'm walking on stage going, okay, just stop, just enough. It's all good. Everybody knows I've got credentials. We've all got credentials. Let's just have some fun. So thank you for keeping it short.
Of course, yeah. I was going to say, too, when I met you, about a month, I think, ago at the Leadership Academy, you had done a presentation for us. Kurt, we all love Kurt. He did your bio, and I think it took like 15 minutes.
It felt like forever.
Yeah.
It did. I was like, oh, my God, I know. We're all interesting people. They don't need to know all these things about me.
It was good stuff. Yeah. He is very thorough, very thorough. All right. So that said, fill in a couple more gaps. Tell us a little about yourself. What else do our listeners need to know about you?
So, much to my teenage daughter's dismay, what I tell people I do is I'm a cage rattler, a thought shifter, and a change strategist. I rattle people's cages because I believe that we are all locked in ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving that limit our success and our joy and the contributions we can make in the world. So I take it as my personal mission to rattle people's cages, to wake them up to the ways that they are contributing to those experiences and help them find their way out. And I do that through a lot of keynotes, workshops, personal and executive coaching, consulting gigs with companies and organizations. And I've written a handful of books to kind of give those people who I may or may not meet a guidebook for how to make some of these changes and thought shifts in their own lives.
How did you, and I have a story about that too in a minute. I'm just curious, so how did you get started in this field?
I think I got started when I was knee-high to a grasshopper, watching how people's ways of thinking about things created the lives that they said they hated. And growing up through that and seeing that in my own life and experiencing it in my own way, I created this career. I had a background in human resources. So I saw kind of from the inside out the human capital piece of what can go wrong or go right in an organization. And then I went and got my master's degree in counseling, which was in a systems theory approach to counseling. So I saw then, wow, okay, I now understand individuals. I understand the bigger system. And then I got my doctorate in leadership. And all along the way, I was picking up experiences and posts in places that allowed me to see where people's self-limitations were getting in the way of their and their organization's success. And I just decided that I needed to do something about that. I had a near-death experience with my second daughter. It really focused for me that who knew how long I really have, because none of us really know. And did I want my legacy to have ended there? Would I be okay with that? And I wasn't at that time. So I made a shift to make sure that I showed up in the world the way that it made sense for me.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. Another thing we talked about too when you came talk to us was self-awareness. And you had said something along the lines of we don't control our thoughts, or we do. I don't know if it was we do, maybe it was we do. And I had challenged you on that.
Yes.
Right.
You're like, we don't control our thoughts. And we had this, and I loved it because it was this very Buddhist, very meditation oriented conversation. I felt like, because there's so much in thought awareness work that people do when they're meditating, which is not to judge a thought or judge something that comes across the control panel, but to simply witness it and be aware of it. And I had made it kind of easy, in air quotes, on the group by saying you can control your thoughts. But our deeper conversation was leading into the fact that we can't control them as they come in. But when we start to shape our belief structures differently, different thoughts will come in. So it's not about trying to wrestle down the thoughts that are coming in. I do believe in looking at them and going, that's a really destructive thought. Oh, that's really interesting. Maybe I don't want to do that, But to know that over time, as you start to shape your, what I call your mental models, or your scaffolding differently, different thoughts will then come in. So in that way, control, because so many of us perpetuate a narrative that is based on victim culture. And if there's anything in my life that I am trying to win over, is trying to wrestle that out of people, because it's so destructive on an individual and on a collective level.
So let's talk about that a little bit then. You did, as you said earlier, kind of rattled my cage, because you got me thinking deeper that, you know what, yes, I actually do have some control over all the thoughts that are coming in my mind. If I back up a little bit, I guess doing the things I can do to kind of get in front of those thoughts, right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you are. It's kind of like having a colander, right? There are all different sorts of colanders. There's, ones with big holes, one with little holes. You've got different things that you can put in them. If you tried to put couscous through a colander, how much of it's going to end up staying in the colander basin? Not much, right? But if you put, rigatoni, you're all set. You're only going to end up with rigatoni in that colander. So when you can adjust your colander, that filtration system, which is the belief structures that are in front of the thought. So they're not just thoughts. The same thoughts that you have about something, the thoughts you have about something aren't the thoughts that I might have about something, because we have two different colanders, right? We have two different filtration systems. So that's how you change your thoughts, is that you start to challenge the belief structures that are in front of the thoughts that are creating those thoughts accompanying those experiences.
A lot of our listeners are real estate agents and they're salespeople. So based on what we're saying, let's take somebody that might be going into a situation where they don't necessarily have a ton of confidence yet, and they're going into the situation. So they're having these thoughts based on, I guess, their level of confidence. But
right.
If the person now practices their scripts and dialogues and what to say, and they're very knowledgeable on the market and they know the inventory in the market better than anybody else, and they know their value proposition, and they just know their homework, then that's going to actually create confidence, right? And that'll also create, I would imagine, better thoughts, like more confident thoughts.
Absolutely. And also, I believe, I don't think we talked about this in the workshop. So I was coaching a salesperson a few years back, and we had this conversation where he said, I don't know if I want to take this next leap in my business. He's talking about expanding and taking some risks. And he said, I might fail. And I said, you're right. And he said, you're the worst coach ever. And I said, but hang on a second. How well has telling yourself that you're wrong worked for you? It hasn't. So when we have those doubts, the most effective thing that we can do is to become friends with our inner critic. Because our inner critic is telling us something based on experience. We have let ourselves down in the past. We have screwed something up, or we have believed a narrative about ourselves that we do screw up. And therefore, our inner critic believes that we are to do it again. So if we try to tell our inner critic that we're wrong, what happens when somebody tells you you're wrong? Do you go, oh, thank you, I appreciate you pointing that out? No. You intrinsically, most of us want to tell you why you're wrong and we're right. It's kind of just human nature. And the inner critic is no different. So when you've got agents that are going into a new situation, and as well prepared as they may be, the way to actually take away the power of the inner critic is to actually focus on soothing it, which is just to say, you know what, you're right. Like, I might totally bag that. Like, this could be the worst experience ever. But what I have are two things to answer that with. One is, here are the ways in which I've prepared to make sure that that doesn't happen. Yeah. And two, if the worst happens, how will I handle myself? If they laugh me out of the house, or, whatever the worst possible nightmare you've had, showing up at school with no pants on kind of nightmare you've had, what's the worst thing and what would you do? And once you've done that, the inner critic is like, oh my God, you listen to me. You get it. They don't have to get louder and stronger and angrier and more certain. They get to get soothed. And I know it sounds kind of like, Sybil, that I'm talking in different personalities in third person, but that inner critic is so powerful. It almost is a separate entity for most of us. It's like this, we ever watched the Fred Flintstone, right? And had the devil and the angel on his opposing shoulders. Yeah. It's that same kind of inner struggle, trying to shut them down, but shutting them down and, oh, I just do my positive affirmations and that works great for me. I think that's BS, because the positive affirmations deny the reality that for whatever reason, your inner critic has become quite confident in holding true.
Yeah, such a great point. I love too that what's the worst thing that can happen, because if we go from that lens or that perspective, we realize that really, wow, I'm definitely not going to get arrested, right? Or who knows?
Right.
There's probably not going to be any bodily harm. I'm probably going to survive.
Right.
I don't think I'm going to go to prison. But we put so much pressure on ourselves to go on a listing appointment or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And even if you have, I remember when I was coming out of college and it was during a recession, and I said to my mom, oh my God, all these terrible things are going to happen. I'm not going to get a job and whatever. And she said, well, what's the worst that can happen? I was like, I don't know, I'll end up homeless and broke and whatever. And I started to unravel myself from that, thinking, no, my friends would never let that happen. Okay, I might go into debt. How would I finance it? Like, if you start creating a plan, it's like telling your very anxious toddler the next 3 steps so that they can chill out. And that's what you're doing is, no, I got you. I got you. I got enough food in the car. I got your favorite toy. We're good. We can get in the car now. And if you can do that to yourself, instead of trying to BS yourself that everything's sunshine and rainbows and unicorns, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, life is pretty great. But stuff does happen. Bad things do happen, but we all are stronger than we often believe we are. We figure stuff out.
You mentioned victim earlier, or victimhood. Yeah. I mean, how first do you even become aware that you're a victim, or you have victim thinking? Because everybody else may know it and they just may not say anything to you, right? And then how do you get beyond it?
Here's the thing. Just because we have been victimized does not mean that we have to be the victim. And that's a very powerful statement to rest on. For a lot of us, when we have become victimized, and we all are, whether it's, the guy who cut us off in traffic, or a parent who didn't show up to the table properly, or a boss or a client who, sideswiped us out of money, whatever it is, we've all been victimized. But what we end up doing is we end up taking all of those collective victimizations and painting them into a narrative that we are a victim, that other people are in charge of the way that we think, feel, and behave. And if you want to know a clue to whether or not you've got some victim stuff going on in your narrative, is if you're talking about other people and the things they're doing more than you are the things that you are doing. So if you're painting a story about something that someone did to you, and in response, you can say it because people do things to us. This is not denying reality. So because they did that, I'm going to do this. And because they did that, I'm going to refuse to do this. And you narrate it in a way that demonstrates that you're taking back your personal power, then you're not in a victim narrative. But we all know those people, and we all have had those periods in our life where we're like, they, he, she, they, right? That's a victim narrative. And the problem with a victim narrative is that, sorry, Superman ain't coming to rescue you. You are the only one who's going to rescue yourself. So if you're stuck in that victim narrative, you are absolutely stuck. And no good comes from that. So if we can find ways to shift some of that just linguistically, and then also kind of structurally and procedurally, that talk, we can really transform our lives. And in transforming each of our individual lives, we can transform the relationships that all of us have with one another. And I got my eye on the prize of world change. So.
Let me ask you, this is way off of anything I plan to talk about today, but listening to what you just said, I'm like wondering if I'm being a victim right now. So here's a situation. I don't know, do you know who Gary V is? Gary Vaynerchuk?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I met Gary a couple months in October, and he agreed to be on my podcast. So I told everybody that episode 100 would feature Gary V, okay?
Right.
Well, episode 99 comes out, and I have not been able to book Gary yet. So what I decided to do was putting episodes on hold, because Gary's number 100. I already made that commitment on my podcast.
Right.
Now, am I being a victim because I'm like, Gary said he was going to do it and he's not doing it? I feel like I'm committed that I will literally put my podcast on hold until I get Gary V to be at 100.
Absolutely. So you have made a decision based on someone else's behavior, right? So he did this, therefore you're going to do this in response. That's taking what power you do have back. Being a victim in that case would sound something like, oh my God, Gary V totally told me he was going to come on my 100th episode. Now what am I going to do? I'm either going to break my commitment to my listeners, or I'm going to have to wait and take all this time off. And every time somebody asks you about your podcast, you're like, yeah, I had to take a bunch of episodes and a bunch of weeks off because Gary V didn't get back to me because, important people, they don't have the time, right? That would be victim talk. We all have to respond to the ways that people behave, right? And some people behave and this is not about you, Gary V, I swear to God, act in ways that are less than admirable, right? Sometimes downright dirty. And we have to respond to them. It's about telling ourselves or other people that we can do nothing because of the actions of someone else, that we are powerless because, that we are miserable because. And when we put those things on other people, we're basically saying, here is my beautiful baby, this newborn, precious, swaddled bundle of joy, my self-respect, my power, my peace. By the way, let me hand it to you, you careless, callous person. You do with it what you will. That's what that looks like when we step into that victim mentality and don't hold on to our power and don't find where we can make steps and progress toward whatever it is that we've got our eye on. So your plan sounds very powerful. It's, you know what? Nope.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good job.
Gary doesn't owe me anything. I know that. Gary preaches that he is a man of his word, and when he says something, he's going to do it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my wife's like, well, why don't you just do reruns? I says, I can't do a rerun, hon, because it's episode 100. Episode 100, right. It's Gary's episode.
Well, Gary, if you're listening, I mean, disparaging comments as I spoke about people who are trying to do us harm. But as a case in point, when people even aren't meaning to do us harm, we often will shift that narrative into us being a victim. And that's, again, it does not serve us. It just does not serve us.
What up, Masters? I'm going to get you right back to the show. I want to share a couple opportunities with you. First off, my new training program I'm super pumped about. People have been asking me for years, guys. It's School for Realtors. It's an expired training. I'm giving you everything, my friends, every single thing that you're going to need to convert expired sellers in this competitive time. All right, I have every single script you're going to need. From the initial conversation, how to keep people from hanging up on you, to the closing script, right? We're giving you a copy of our pre-listing packet. I'm giving you emails that you can literally copy and paste templates. I'm giving you a 65-day email campaign, guys, that you literally copy and paste. Expired flyers, okay, 2 different marketing pieces. And we're giving you actual ads that you can use on Facebook. Guys, these are targeted ads that I've been using on Facebook where I'm generating people calling me and saying, hey, I see you guys everywhere. Yeah, why don't you come over and take a look at my house? So I'm giving you everything. This is called Expired School for Realtors. Simply go to schoolforrealtors.com. Costs you $149. I wanted to make this such a no-brainer because it's going to be the best investment you will ever make in your real estate business for $149. And here's a better thing. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So at the end, if you said, you know what, Dave, I just didn't get value in your expired training, then I'm going to give you your $149 back, and you still have all my material. So how's that work, right? You can't go wrong. Listen, everything is here, everything you need. And here's the last thing. We have a monthly call. You're part of an awesome community where everybody in the community has the same goals, okay? Here's you're sharing things that work with each other. And I am logging in monthly and doing a live training for everybody. You have role play partners. Listen, this is everything you need. It's so simple. You go to schoolforrealtors.com, you get to download, and then you just start downloading. And I even made it step by step by step. All right, that said, awesome opportunity for you. And then finally, and we're going to get you back to the show, I promise. If you love audiobooks or if you love podcasts, you need to check out Audible. Audible.com is Amazon's audiobook site. You can get yourself a copy of Crushing It or any book you want. I would encourage Crushing It for free by going to davidsfreebook.com. Again, davidsfreebook.com. Get yourself a free copy of any audiobook you want on Audible. Yes, they're going to ask you for a credit card, but here's what you're going to do. As long as you cancel within 30 days, your credit card will never be billed. So schedule a reminder in your calendar 25 days out. And if for some reason you don't love the service, then you cancel and your card's never, ever charged. And you get to keep the book. Guys, listen, these are opportunities. How do you go wrong with either of these opportunities? Okay, listen, you rock. I just want to share that with you. So a couple opportunities. Schoolforrealtors.com and davidsfreebook.com. Enjoy the rest of the show. All right, so one of the questions, I asked people to send me a couple questions. And one of the questions you sent me was, what's the difference between people who are satisfied with their lives and those who are just getting by? So I'd love to talk a little bit about that.
I mean, that in and of itself could be a series of podcasts, right? But I thought it would spur some interesting conversation and maybe just some kind of bottom line commentary from me, which is that what I've seen, the difference between people who are just getting by, and we all know those people who are doing the daily grind, whether it's as an entrepreneur or as an employed individual, and they're getting up and they remind us of the Dunkin' Donuts guy, right? Time to make the donuts. You know, we're just dragging ourselves in through life. Everything's kind of rote. The passion and the fire in our eyes is kind of out. They're just struggling to make things happen for themselves. And everything seems to be an effort. When you ask them how they are, they're like, fine, or, oh my God, you're never going to believe what happened, right? They've always got a story, you know? And then there are those who are actually having this satisfied existence. And some days it's jubilant and some days it's just mezza, but they are like, my life kind of rocks, right? Like, I don't want to brag or anything, but I'm pretty freaking happy, you know? The difference in those two types of individuals is I boil it down to three things, really simple. And they're 3-letter P words, real easy to remember. One is purpose. Why the heck are you taking up space? What are you doing? And it doesn't need to be the Gary V's or the Oprah Winfrey's of the world. It might be, I want to make this little corner of my world better. I want to bring people peace in their home. Whatever it is, it's got to be something that's going to get you out of bed in the morning and make you feel like when you have done it right, it's so good. The second piece of that, and this is twins, the second and third are twins of one another, and they sound funny because they're not often put together. Sometimes in political circles, we kind of try, figure out how they could possibly go together, are power and peace. And a lot of people are like, well, power hungry people. No. I'm talking about personal power. And personal power comes from a sense of peace and acceptance. The root to true power, the root to true peace are the one and the same, and it's acceptance. It's accepting that things are the way that they are and that you have some control over them, you have some influence over them, but you do not have it all. And so when you come into this place of understanding your power, where it begins and where it ends, and that peace comes through exercising your personal power effectively, wielding it responsibly, you end up being in a place of true peace and acceptance of all the other circumstances that may come through that you can't do jack about, right? Those three things are huge. And the people that I bump into who are just getting by don't recognize their personal power where it begins and ends, don't take responsibility fully for, and this doesn't make them bad people, it just makes them misguided, lost, needing some assistance, needing some cage rattling, right? But they have not taken full account and responsibility for their own personal power. They still feel like someone else is pulling the strings. They don't feel a sense of peace. They haven't figured out how to accept things and not have that narrate them as victim again, right? It's a very fine line, a very shift in understanding about that. And they haven't conquered their purpose. I have this woman who came to me, and I do 99% of my coaching by phone. There are some people I've worked with for some number of months or years, and I've never seen their face. And this woman, I was talking to her on the phone, and she was telling me about the misery in her life. And I said, well, the first place we're going to start is I need to understand what your purpose is here. I need to understand what's getting you up in the morning. And so we did this exercise, and she came back to me the next week. And I have to tell you, David, it was amazing. On the phone, when she was talking to me, she sounded like this during our first call. And I could feel, like literally feel her chin in her chest. Like I couldn't see her. I couldn't see what her posture was, but that's what it sounded like to me. And when she got back on the phone after that exercise we did, when she had her words for what her purpose was, she was speaking to you like I speak to you now, with power and passion in her voice. It made all the difference.
Yeah, I believe that. That's for sure. So for our listeners now, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this say, okay, I want to make these changes. I love everything I just heard. I want to feel more purpose and power and peace in my life and greater self-awareness and confidence. I'm going to do this. What's going to be the biggest challenge for these guys? What are they going to run into?
The biggest challenge is something I'm writing about in my latest book, and it's something I call contracts. What creates our belief structures, that calendar system that we have for all of our thoughts, feelings, and actions, are contracts we've made with life, with people, with ourselves over time that say to us how we have to feel. And you've probably heard people do this, and you've probably done this yourself. They say, oh, I was cut off in traffic, so of course I was mad, right? Mm-hmm. And you're like, wait a second. You said, of course. You said, of course, as though there was no other way to be. That sounds like, and I hear those things when I hear people speaking about things, that's a contract. That's something that they've made. They've said, I agree to be angry when someone cuts me off in traffic because I believe that people should pay more attention. People should be more considerate of other people, et cetera. If you did not have that expectation, if you were like living in Russia after the fall of communism, and I've been there, and let me tell you, the roads are not what we're used to here, that you would not have that expectation and you would therefore not be mad. The biggest challenge that people run into in trying to live out that peace, power, and purpose construct is these contracts that they have, that there are some have-tos in their life, that there are some, this is just the way that it is. No, this is the way that it should be. This is the way that life must work. And challenging those structures gets in their way because they go back to that comfortable place. Even though it's icky, it's comfortable because it's known. Having to challenge those thoughts and those belief structures in and out, day in and day out, can be a huge mountain to climb. And which is why people like me out there exist, to help not only shift their thoughts, to be able to keep them accountable to them so that they can make that kind of magic in their lives. Because, I mean, I don't know what everybody's belief structure is, but even if we get 7, 8, 10, 100 times through this joint, I'd like to make each one count.
I'm just wondering if there's 100 people, let's say, arbitrary number 100. I mean, I'm guessing 99 of those people are going to have contracts. Basically, this is the way it's supposed to be. And if it doesn't happen that way, then, right?
Yeah, 100% of them. I mean, and some of them work for us and some of them don't. If you grew up in a beautiful, calm, loving household, you might have a contract about love that means equal partnership and good communication. If you grew up in a hellhole, you might actually think that love means punishment and trauma. You might not say that, but your choices and your experiences subsequent to that show that. If you want to find out what someone believes in, what someone values, don't ask them. Look at how they spend their money and how they spend their time. So all of us have contracts, and all of us need to look at those contracts to figure out what we've agreed to before we had the capability of making an informed, self-supporting contract, and be able to go back and revisit those contracts, and the ones that aren't working for us, rewrite them.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. All right. So how do our listeners, I mean, if they want to, obviously I want to go deeper on this stuff with you. How do our listeners get in touch with you?
Oh, great question. They can get in touch with me if they want to. Link to me on LinkedIn. I'm Dr. Bridget Cooper. Facebook, connect with me too. Just mention in an invite or whatever. Just kind of, message me. Let me know where you heard from me, because I get hundreds of these things. I don't know about you guys, a day. Or you can reach out to me directly, please, at bridget@drbridgetcooper.com. You can visit my website. You can check me out on Amazon under Dr. Bridget Cooper. Check out my YouTube channel, however you want to reach out. I've got, I think, Twitter. I don't tweet, but other than that, I think I'm on every social media thing that seems to be relevant. So, but yeah, reach out, pick up a book, have a conversation with me, watch one of my car talks. Yeah, I'd love to help because, like I said, I got a mission. You can help me see that through.
Now, do you have an audiobook on Audible by chance?
It's one of those things. A friend of mine has a recording studio, and I really need to just buckle down and put one of my books, because I've got 5 books, about to have 6. I think this next book actually might be the one that ends up on audiobook, because I think it's the way that it's going to be set up, it might lend itself best to that. There have been 1 or 2 that were a little tougher because they had a lot of other things in them. So yeah, you're kicking the coach. Good job.
Hey, there's a reason.
I got to get that on audiobook.
Me too. Same boat as you. I got a publisher, and he told me 2 years ago I need to get an audiobook. I still haven't done it yet. And I do podcasts for 2 years. So there you go. That said, though, with regards to audiobooks, what would be an audiobook that is on Audible that you would recommend for our listeners based on the conversation we had today? Or one that you shared. Maybe it doesn't have to be related. I
have loved so many. I mean, I'm a big fan of Brene Brown and Glennon Milton Doyle, some of their work on the courage that we all need to find at different points in our lives to make shifts, to make changes. And one of the most, I think, transformational books for me in shifting some of my thinking about some things, and just also revisiting some of the things that I've been talking about for years, is the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu's book, The Book of Joy. I actually sent my latest book to Archbishop Tutu because we met years ago. Apparently he's reading it, which I can keep hoping he does. But yeah, that one is truly about the human condition and understanding things and coming at the world in a much more gentle yet strong way. I highly recommend The Book of Joy.
The Book of Joy. Awesome. So for my listeners, if you want to go get yourself a free copy on me from Audible, go to davidsfreebook.com. davidsfreebook.com. Again, davidsfreebook.com. Get yourself a copy of the Book of Joy. It sounds amazing. I might do that myself. Bridget, listen, final question on our listeners' path to mastery. What's the one thing, like if there's one thing they're going to walk away with today from this interview, what's the one thing you want to make sure that they walk away with?
I want them to remember that they are in charge of today and the rest of their life, and that all of that starts with the belief that they can and must make some small shifts that transform into huge, pivotal transformations in their lives to live the life that they're meant to live, that they have a pipeline of awesome to open up, and it's up to them to make those shifts to make that happen.
Awesome. Thank you for your time. That was awesome. Great work.
Thanks, David. I appreciate it.
Masters, if you know me, you know health and nutrition is number one. And that's why I'm an advisor for Advocare products. Listen, in my opinion, these are the best products on the planet, guys. You get what you're supposed to get, right? I use the products for health. I use the products for energy. I use the products for wellness. So we have all the different lines from Spark, starting your day with a great energy shot, all the way to pre-workout. It's whatever your goals are, right? It's whatever your goals are. You can check out the products at www.livelongersmarter.com. That's my website. Or reach out to me, and I'd love to have a 30-minute or, anywhere from 15 to 30-minute conversation with you, just talking about your health and nutrition goals and what I can do to help you achieve those goals. So again, products, energy line, or wellness line, whether it's joints, you're getting up there in the age, you just want to take care of yourself. I'll tell you, one of the greatest compliments I get is people, you say, wow, you look amazing. I cannot believe you are the age you are. Weight loss. I've helped lots of people, guys, lose weight, not just lose it, but keep it off with the products. And the cool thing is, I'd say 75% of the people who start with our products, they continue using our products even after they initially tried them, which has been amazing. And strength, if you're into bodybuilding, then hey, Rich Fronin, okay? I don't know if you know who Rich Fronin is. He's an advocate for Advocare as well. So amazing products. You can see us. We're featured on NASCAR, professional soccer, college basketball, college football, Men's Health magazine last month. These are the real deal, guys. livelongersmarter.com is the website, or reach out to me if you, like I said, if you want to have a personal conversation with me, just send me an email. In the subject line, just put Advocare products, and I'd love, like I said, schedule a 15 to 30-minute call with you to talk about your health and nutrition goals. Guys, you rock. Live longer, smarter. And as Gary Keller eloquently said, if you don't take care of your body, where are you gonna live? You rock.
You are listening to One More Sale with your host, David I. Hill, author of the Sales Playbook. Get your copy at www.thesalesplaybook.net.